Part 4. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 31. Lu Chang'an walked over and was about to close the door. Several of the followers understood the situation, and without waiting for Zhongqing's signal, they walked over to block Lu Chang'an from closing the door, and did not immediately take action against Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhongqing quietly. The night is cloudy, the stars and moon are dim, the lights on the construction site are shining brightly, the scattered building materials are piled up like mountains, and the tall hanging tower not far away is like a mechanical giant, dormant in the dark night. Lu Chang'an turned on his flashlight and glanced directly ahead. Zhongqing only felt his hand being pulled. He felt the Rottweiler break away from him and screamed, but he heard a shrill barking sound. The roar was quickly followed by a scream. It turned into a low whine, then silence. Lu Chang'an turned off the flashlight, and several bodyguards and Zhongqing gradually recovered their vision. They only saw a dead dog lying in front of Lu Chang'an. The Rottweiler named High Templar had no breath and was paralyzed. Motionless on the ground. There was silence, especially the several bodyguards who involuntarily stepped back from the encirclement they had just been in. They looked at Lu Chang'an with cold and vigilant eyes, but Zhongqing could clearly see that the muscles in their backs were tense. The blood vessels between his ears and neck were beating violently. Even if Zhongqing is a layman, he knows that Lu Chang'an's actions have shocked the few people she brought with her. A bodyguard who was close to Zhongqing lowered his voice and said, "Miss Zhong, this person is too dangerous, we can't act rashly." "You can't beat it?" The dog's head was not broken, and there was no blood dripping from the mouth and nose, which means that it was directly shocked to death by internal force. "We are not much better than this dog. If one punches us, we will end up with the same fate." Zhongqing took a few steps back, adjusted his glasses, and was shocked. How could this migrant worker from the city, who was dining with the old madam, be so scary? No, it's impossible. How could he be with the old bastard? It seemed that he had misjudged. Only then did Zhongqing come to his senses. His preconceptions had only now been shattered. It is forbidden to keep fierce dogs in the city. If you encounter a fierce dog that breaks away from the leash, you will not be responsible for killing it. Lu Chang'an picked up the dog. Similar laws and regulations in Juncha also have regulations governing motorcycle speeding and robbery. Juncha is the slogan "shoot to death on the spot during drive-by robbery" was first posted. Lu Chang'an, when Zhongqing saw Lu Chang'an was leaving, he couldn't help suppressing the fear in his heart and shouted, "Is something wrong?" Lu Chang'an turned around and turned on the flashlight. Several people were so blinded by Lu Chang'an's flashlight that they couldn't open their eyes. Dogs are different from people. Dogs can quickly adapt to strong light, but people don't have this ability. Being flickered by strong light will dazzle people. Several bodyguards he had to quickly surround Zhongqing based on the direction in his impression, hoping that the other party would not use the same method to hurt others. He was too confident before coming and was completely unprepared to deal with such a difficult target. "Turn off the flashlight first." Zhongqing covered his eyes and said to Lu Chang'an sideways. Zhongqing's profile was uneven, allowing the strong light to depict a beautiful outline. Lu Chang'an did not turn off the flashlight. "It's okay, I'm leaving. You and I go to see Miss Susan. We have no ill intentions. She just wants to see you," Zhongqing said quickly. She did not expect that high-level Templar warriors would go crazy when stimulated by strong light. If it were an ordinary person, this would happen. "I was afraid that something would happen, but luckily I was killed by Lu Chang'an," but discovering that Lu Chang'an was so amazingly skilled didn't seem to be something to be thankful for. "I have a condition." "Want money?" Zhongqing's first reaction was like this, but thinking about the little tricks he used to seduce people, they might be a little more excessive. As expected, Zhu Huntang hoped that she would use seductive methods to gain a certain understanding of Lu Chang'an. Now that things have happened, Do you still want to use this method? If I had known earlier, I would have listened to Zhu Huntang and arranged for a few peripheral women to satisfy him. Say it. Zhongqing gritted his teeth. If his request was too much, he would have to give up tonight's action. Anyway, he would be defeated again and again, so it was impossible to use force. Zhongqing has already understood that Lu Chang'an is definitely not easy to deal with. A few people can't scare him by just showing off. If he can kill such a fierce dog with one punch, the few people he brings with him may not be enough to watch. The weight of the high-level Templar warrior exceeds 60 kilograms, which is already the weight of a normal adult male, far more than Zhongqing, not to mention that the ferocity of the fierce dog is beyond the comparison of ordinary people. Can you give me this dog? Lu Chang'an said with some embarrassment, although according to the past customs, the dog he killed was of course considered his prey. Here you. Zhongqing felt that Lu Chang'an was a psychopath and stared at Lu Chang'an in disbelief. What was going on in his mind? This is somewhat similar to Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an first dragged the dog behind the wall and hid it, and then followed Zhongqing out of the construction site with a flashlight. Lu Chang'an stepped on Zongqing's shadow, and the bodyguard stayed downstairs. Except for herself, Zhongqing, and the guests she invited, Zhu Huntang's dedicated elevator could only take the elevator on the other side. Why were you unwilling to agree before, but you are willing tonight? Zhongqing has already made a judgment. Zhu Huntang wants to see Lu Chang'an, naturally because Lu Chang'an has something worth seeing. For example, he has good skills, which he did not know before. You know, when did Zhu Huntang come into contact with Lu Chang'an, and why did he become interested in him? This was his dereliction of duty, and he couldn't explain it to Mrs. Zuzan. Thinking of Mrs. Zuzan's methods, Zhongqing felt embarrassed and hot at the same time, and couldn't help but frown. Taking the scenic elevator at night is a beautiful experience, even though Junsha is not a city famous for its light shows. Lu Chang'an replied, I didn't want to before because I didn't want to. But tonight I feel I can't avoid it, so I want to meet. Is it that simple? Zhongqing felt that Lu Chang'an's thoughts and words would always exceed her expectations. Or maybe it's because he's not from the same world, so it's difficult to communicate. Zhongqing's current judgment is that Lu Chang'an is a young man who has practiced martial arts at home and is now in trouble. Also, I want that dog. Although it's not the best season for eating dog meat, your dog is full of fat, shiny, and moist, so it is naturally delicious. I can't finish it by myself, and I can sell it to neighbors. Neighbors, you can earn more than 1,000 with less talk. Lu Chang'an did the math and found that 1,000 is no problem. Although Junsha people don't have any customs such as dog meat festivals, like most places in China, they still eat it during the dog days. The eating habit of ordering dog meat. Zhongqing didn't want to talk to Lu Chang'an anymore, they were not on the same channel at all. When the elevator stopped, Zhongqing resumed the cold, distant, and indifferent etiquette of her exquisite female assistant, and bent sideways. Lu Chang'an walked in the long corridor, as if walking in the exhibition corridor of a modern art museum, except that the artworks on both sides were based on Zhu Huntang, including photos of the first officer, oil paintings, and statues. Zhongqing led Lu Chang'an up the stairs on the other side, and unsurprisingly Zhu Huntang chose the place where they first met. The sky is cloudy tonight, there is no strong wind, there is only the silence of the night and the flickering lights in the distance. The straight streets seem to have found countless golden sands, which are shiny. Zhu Huntang is wearing white square-soled high-heeled shoes. The skirt is fluffy and has delicate lace, shaking slightly, like a butterfly stepping on a flower branch. Ching Ching, please go down first, Zhu Huntang said calmly. Zhongqing glanced at Lu Chang'an and retreated. Last time we talked about Lu Bang locking me up. Lu Chang'an walked to Zhu Huntang and looked at the dark sky in the distance. They say that Ying Zheng claimed to be the first emperor and was dreaming of an eternal dream. In fact, Lu Bang did the same. He himself had no way to live forever, so he hoped that his descendants could live forever, and that the Han royal family could live forever, and he left behind the so-called method of longevity. When it came to Lu Che's generation, what he later regretted was that he succeeded to the throne. Then he let me go, and when his dream of immortality became too strong to contain when he was old again, he could no longer find me. Zhu Huntang turned around, the same position, the same night, the same people. The dreamlike scene finally reappeared to tell her that it was what really happened. The man who jumped from a 450-meter high building, the miraculous man, did not fall to death or turn into meat. He appeared neatly in front of her and talked about immortality. This time Zhu Huntang will no longer think that he is talking nonsense. I saw some readers saying that other immortal protagonists eat with antiques. This is probably a way of writing that can make readers feel comfortable. I think it is also good, but from the perspective of my protagonist, I think immortals should treat antiques no interest whatsoever. Lu Chang'an believes that the cities I see will become relics, everything I touch are antiques, and everything I walk through and experience is history. A bowl that was made hundreds of years ago and is still in use today? Even if it was used by Emperor Qin and Han Dynasty, Lu Chang'an would not care about it. He went to the museum just to see if it could remind him of some memories. If a replica antique cost more than 200 yuan, he thought it was too expensive, so he would not think about it. If you ask for it, even if it is 200 yuan for a genuine product, he will not buy it, and he will still think it is expensive. For example, why do immortals care about the ancient attribute sought after by modern people? After all, this is just the state of mind of ordinary people. Lu Chang'an is an immortal who lives in the present. Thank you for your support. Currently, we are continuing to make the list. It will be difficult for newcomers after all. We need everyone's recommendation votes and collections to support us step by step. Ask for favorites and recommendations. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 32. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an seriously. She had imagined many times when she and Lu Chang'an would meet again. Would she be excited, reserved, or simply threaten him like the previous emperors and ask him to hand over his secret? Source. She just didn't expect that Lu Chang'an would go back to the conversation he had with her before he jumped off that night, and then continued like this. If you think this is storytelling, just say continue the next chapter. You didn't say please listen to the breakdown next time last time? With random thoughts in his mind, Lu Chang'an stopped talking, and Zhu Huntang came back to his senses. Why don't you continue? Later I became Lu He, Lu Che's grandson, and I became emperor for a few days. Then I was deposed by the little girl from the Shangguan family, but I was never locked up easily again. I was forced to do nothing. I struggled and struggled for a while to survive until now. What's next? No, I can't make it up anymore. Editor. Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang looked at each other. Lu Chang'an's eyes were dark and shining, while Zhu Huntang's eyes were large, like a cat, with a slightly reflective feel, which made her eyes appear extra bright and energetic. She squinted her eyes and fluttered her eyelashes. The eyes became narrow and long, with the charm of a girl. The night wind gradually became stronger, and Zhu Huntang's fluffy skirt was swaying like the petals of parting grass stepped on by butterflies. Zhu Huntang stretched out his hand and pointed downstairs. You jump off the building and show me. No, Lu Chang'an refused without hesitation. I will dance if you ask me to. This was what Zhu Huntang said to Lu Chang'an back then. She didn't expect that he would actually remember it. Zhu Huntang didn't care about his pettiness. Her emotions at this moment were very complicated. You danced casually that night. I was a little excited, but it was suppressed, and the wind was blowing, so I could calm down a little. It felt absurd and like a dream. I doubted myself and Lu Chang'an in front of me, and wanted to confirm it again. What she most wants to see is that she is standing here, Lu Chang'an jumps down, then comes up again, jumps down again, back and forth a dozen times. Zhu Huntang feels that she can slowly accept the reality. As long as you jump down, I can give you everything you want. Zhu Huntang confidently tempted Lu Chang'an to jump off the building. Lu Chang'an laughed, "Stupid woman. I am Zhu Huntang, the third young lady of the Zhu family. The building under your feet is mine. Not counting the Zhu family, the property under my name is more than enough to be ranked on the Forbes list." Zhu Huntang calmly persuaded, "Even if you, so what if you have superpowers? After all, to live in this real world, you need material enjoyment, spiritual satisfaction, and, as long as you have desires, I can satisfy all your desires." As he spoke, Zhu Huntang pointed to the city at his feet. "I am a fairy. Anyone who can satisfy the fairy can be satisfied." Zhu Huntang thinks that Lu Chang'an's story of immortality may really be made up, but if he really wasn't dreaming that night, then he must have superpowers. When she said she was a fairy, she really thought so. Lu Chang'an had seen too many people of all kinds, and there were many patients with delusions, especially the many emperors and princes who were crazy. "According to your guess, I am a person with superpowers, so why don't I use my own superpowers to satisfy my desires, but rely on you?" Lu Chang'an said to Zhu Huntang's confident but stupid, ambitious and arrogant attitude. "I kind of want to know something in my heart. Obviously you are not a stupid person. Your current refusal to admit it, whether you admit it or not, is a kind of offer the world ruled by us ordinary people." Zhu Huntang raised his chin slightly and took a step. Buledin approached Lu Chang'an and said, "People need faith and will believe in gods, but rulers do not need gods to actually appear. If gods appear, then gods will be eliminated, and the same goes for superpowers. You can only live a low-key life in this world. Even if your superpowers can help you gain wealth, how much can you gain? And looking at you now, I don't think you are good at using your superpowers to gain wealth. So, this is the reason why we can cooperate. You have superpowers, and I have the prosperity of the world. We each get what we need, so why refuse?" Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an with confidence. She could not think of the reason for Lu Chang'an's refusal. "Turn around," Lu Chang'an signaled. Zhu Huntang turned around excitedly. It seemed that Lu Chang'an was going to perform a jumping-off building show. A strong force came from Zhu Huntang's butt. Zhu Huntang exclaimed and felt that his whole body was flying into the air. Plop! The water splashed, and Zhu Huntang was kicked into the swimming pool by Lu Chang'an. He carefully controlled his strength. After all, it was enough for the fairy to be taught a lesson. He didn't want to break the little flower. Zhu Huntang emerged from the water, reached out to push away his messy hair, slapped the water surface hard, and looked at Lu Chang'an angrily. "Lu Chang'an, are you crazy?" "Zhu Huntang, you are crazy." Lu Chang'an walked to the edge of the swimming pool, reached out and patted her head, pressed into the water, and watched her float up and down like a buoy. "Of course I am in awe, but will I be in awe of you? Your stupidity makes you very cute." Zhu Huntang bulged her eyes. She had never been so embarrassed. Even if Miss Zhu San fell on the grass, the nannies and servants would be frightened. Every hair of her hair was taken care of meticulously. This kind of pain from others. Zhu Huntang felt the sense of shame for the first time, unfamiliar and angry. Zhu Huntang opened Lu Chang'an's hand, climbed out of the swimming pool, and stood wetly in front of Lu Chang'an. The skirt was tightly attached to the body. The originally fluffy fabric only absorbed a lot of water, and there was no feeling like a happy couple. Zhu Huntang shuddered, glared at Lu Chang'an, and then stretched out his hand tremblingly, moving his fingers. He moved, but still grabbed Lu Chang'an's sleeves hard, and walked downstairs without saying a word. Zhongqing was waiting downstairs. She couldn't safely leave Zhu Huntang and Lu Chang'an on the roof, so she left. Zhongqing was startled when he saw Zhu Huntang's appearance, and quickly called the servants over. Some were bringing towels, some were carrying hot water, and some were holding blankets. They were all in a hurry as if something big had happened. Zhongqing, stay with him and don't let him fly away, Zhu Huntang said without looking back. She didn't want outsiders to look at her like this for too long. Zhu Huntang has always been an elegant and noble fairy. Fly away? Zhongqing couldn't understand, but he knew that Zhu Huntang would come out and see Lu Chang'an later. Lu Chang'an didn't mind that Zhu Huntang added a superpower to him, and he didn't leave in a hurry. He had to stay vigil tonight. The night was long, so Fan Jian probably wouldn't mind if he passed the time upstairs. Zhongqing led Lu Chang'an to the living room. Seeing that Lu Chang'an had not forgotten his helmet and flashlight, he took a deep breath and suppressed his shock and anger. Do you need something to drink? Tea. The servant brought a pot of tea. The fragrance was overflowing. Lu Chang'an smelled the aroma. It was a very rare and good tea. Unfortunately, he did not have the metaphysics to taste which wave of tea leaves it was from a certain tea tree in a certain place. The master stir-fries it? Zhongqing looked at Lu Chang'an drinking tea. Excuse me, what happened just now? She thought I should be in awe of her, so I kicked her into the swimming pool to wake her up. Lu Chang'an frowned. Why don't you remind her that she is not a fairy? Of course Miss Susan is a fairy, Zhongqing said word by word. She did not say that she had watched Zhu Huntang grow up, but she had also been with her for a long time. She had a strong sense of belonging to the Zhu family. He also had feelings for Zhu Huntang, and Zhongqing felt more or less the insults heaped on Zhu Huntang. The old lady has been calling her little fairy since she was a child. Of course she is a fairy. Doesn't she have to be able to fly to be a fairy? Or you can fly, so you think those who can't fly are not fairies? The anger in Zhongqing's tone was very obvious, but Lu Chang'an laughed. As expected, he was used to it. His phone vibrated and he took it out. The aroma of tea became stronger and stronger, and the porcelain cup was clean and warm, with a sense of transparency like crystal. After putting down the teacup, Lu Chang'an took out his mobile phone, took a photo and sent it to the net friend. He remembered that she also likes to drink tea and would share it from time to time. Some tea-related marketing articles for Lu Chang'an. Zhongqing saw this and asked his servant to fetch a tea set to give to Lu Chang'an. Third Miss will definitely come to you again in the future, and please don't be so arrogant to her in the future. Zhongqing did not want to threaten Lu Chang'an. In her opinion, Lu Chang'an was not in his right mind, and threats and inducements seemed useless. That is, he said he couldn't be dealt with in the usual way. Master said that there are 3 kinds of friends who benefit and 3 kinds of friends that hurt. Friends who are straight, forgiving, and friends who are well informed are beneficial. Friends who are friendly are forgiving, friends who are gentle, and friends who are sycophants are harmful. If you are really good for her, you should tell her that she is not a fairy that everyone will love, and instead of indulging her, she will be more self-righteous. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. She is the one who is presumptuous, not me. Since you like to talk about masters, Confucius also said that a gentleman talks but doesn't use his hands, right? She is just a little proud at best, and you want to kick her into the swimming pool? She is a girl and you are a man, Zhongqing said angrily. This is not what he said. Lu Chang'an corrected Zhongqing. I have clearly expressed my refusal to meet her many times, but you have harassed me repeatedly under her instruction. I did not throw you into the trap. The swimming pool threw her into the swimming pool to give her a slight punishment, which is very reasonable. There is no distinction between men and women before the truth. There is no distinction between men and women before the truth. Zhongqing really hopes that when Lu Chang'an finds a girlfriend in the future, he can stick to his principles and reason with his girlfriend every day. But now what Lu Chang'an said was indeed very reasonable and clear, making Zhongqing feel that Zhu Huntang brought it on himself, and that he, Lu Chang'an, was not wrong at all. Not convinced, Zhongqing really wanted to regain his position, but Lu Chang'an refused to accept hard words, and his fists were too hard. Last night I was sitting on the newcomer list and was very happy. When I woke up in the morning, I fell out of the list. I was shocked again and again. For the first time, I was given a 30 yuan red envelope for recommended tickets. I didn't know that the ticket seller came to my door. Watch again. Looking at the few books that have not been updated from last night to this morning, but whose rankings have skyrocketed, I can't help but wonder, what's the use of this? But, even if I buy out, I still want to get better grades. How to distribute the red envelope for recommendation tickets so that robots can't snatch it away. Never mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 33. Zhu Huntang changed her clothes and came out. Her hair had a unique wet feeling, falling on both sides of her slender waist and swaying with her steps. Even after the most embarrassing moment, Zhu Huntang still regained her girlish elegance and calmness, holding her head high and showing the unique arrogant and charming smile of Miss Zhu San on her face. I forgive your rashness. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an and said, those who are proud of their talents will always be indulged by some people. Back then, Prince Dan of Yan could endure being stabbed 3 times by Jing Kai before he could accept Jing Kai and let Jing Kai. I am willing to risk my life to assassinate Qin Shi Huang. I will not take this to heart. Jing Kai assassinated King Zheng of Qin, and Ying Zheng proclaimed himself emperor 6 years later. Also, where did you hear that Jing Kai first stabbed Prince Yan 3 times? Lu Chang'an looked at Zhu Huntang in confusion. I have read a lot of books, but there is always one that says this. Could it be the history I invented? Zhu Huntang picked up a book from the shelf, opened it, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. There was a thoughtful look in his eyes, and he gently pinched the pages of the book with his fingers. Then he raised his head and looked at Zhongqing in a daze, as if his whole person exuded a fresh and pure atmosphere, as well as that lovely ignorance. Zhongqing quickly captured this lovely and beautiful moment in confusion and took a photo of Zhu Huntang, then turned the phone screen and showed Zhu Huntang a look at the photo. Zhu Huntang nodded with satisfaction. Use that pink filter to edit it, and send it to me later. After taking the photo, Zhu Huntang threw the book aside. Lu Chang'an took a look at the prop, which was a copy of Shuowenjizi. When I walked in, I saw that you had a lot of books and even a big library. Lu Chang'an had some doubts about the purpose of her library from her statement that Jing Kai had stabbed Prince Dan 3 times. I like reading. Zhu Huntang's smile was calm and upright. Then read more books. Lu Chang'an was about to leave. Etc. Of course, Zhu Huntang did not intend to let Lu Chang'an go just like that. After shooing away Zhongqing and the servant, he put his hands behind his back and pressed his hips. He looked at Lu Chang'an with hidden vigilance, bit his lip sideways and then let go. I heard everything you and Zhongqing said. What you said makes sense, but you also kicked me and we are even. Lu Chang'an nodded. He is a reasonable person, as long as the other party is reasonable with him. Zhuliang visited the thatched cottage 3 times, no, Liu Bei paid 3 visits to the thatched cottage to express his sincerity. In fact, Zhuliang has long wanted to follow Liu Bei to rob his family. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an with bright eyes. I, Miss Zuzan, am also very hungry for talents. As long as you can for my use, I can help you keep secrets, give you countless wealth, and many, many women. Everyone has desires and wants to satisfy their desires. Zhu Huntang firmly believes in this. Even if she was kicked into the swimming pool by Lu Chang'an just now, she will not be shaken by this. You are also a woman. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhu Huntang meaningfully. Zhu Huntang has always thought that she is a very ambitious girl, so in order to realize her ambition, it is okay to sacrifice a little bit of her pride and compromise. So Zhu Huntang's eyes flashed with shyness, and he bit his lips. After a brief hesitation, he closed his eyes with a hint of resentment and determination, took a deep breath, and pulled up the hem of his skirt a little with his fingers, and was about to get ready. When I was about to take it off, I couldn't give up my reserve and insisted shyly, "Turn around first." Lu Chang'an turned around as he was told. Zhu Huntang's eyes widened, his expression changed, he slowly stepped back a few steps, stopped breathing, jumped up quickly and kicked Lu Chang'an in the butt. "This is called treating others with their own medicine." Zhu Huntang sneered in his heart. Men are vulgar after all. They are so lustful that they even dare to blaspheme fairies. Then he will have to pay the price of blaspheming fairies. Lu Chang'an turned sideways at the right time, and then saw Zhu Huntang's expression change, and he kicked the air with a scream, and landed on the ground dancing. He rushed forward a few steps and tried to stabilize his body, but failed in the end, and fell to the ground with a plop. Lu Chang'an looked at her expressionlessly. What a stupid woman. Zhu Huntang lay motionless on the ground. She couldn't accept the reality. It had not been an hour since the last time she was so embarrassed. However, she fell to the ground again in such an unprecedented embarrassment. In Miss Zuzan's life, she had been humiliated again and again. Suddenly, infinite grievances flooded into his heart, making Zhu Huntang burst into tears. At this time, Lu Chang'an came over, and Zhu Huntang made up her mind. No matter whether he took the initiative to pull her away, apologized, or coaxed her, she would never forgive him. But once and for all, unless he agrees to be his subordinate. Lu Chang'an walked past Zhu Huntang, walked out, walked into the elevator, and went downstairs. Zhu Huntang lay on the ground for a long time, without waiting for Lu Chang'an to turn around and pull him up, and finally realized that Lu Chang'an had really left directly. "Zhongqing. Zhong, Qing." Zhu Huntang's infinitely aggrieved voice echoed. Lu Chang'an went downstairs and returned to the construction site to find the dead dog. He breathed a sigh of relief. He had been worried that the dead dog would be picked up by others while he was going upstairs. I looked up and saw that the lights on the outer wall of Bailong Center were still bright as the jade pillars glowing inside. There was a little fairy living on the top of the building. Lu Chang'an smiled. He was not worried about Zhu Huntang leaking his secrets. The longer he lived, the stronger he became. He did not become more cautious, but naturally he was not so easily threatened. Except for him, no other patrolling people came over. Lu Chang'an didn't care that Fan Jian's request for him to watch the night was actually from Zhongqing's instruction, and he still walked around the construction site in an orderly manner. The soil exudes a faint fishy smell, and there is always a smell mixed with dust, paint and water slurry on construction sites. Lu Chang'an saw a truck parked too close to the edge of the pit foundation, so he walked over and tried to push it to the edge. A little behind. No problem, great strength. One night passed, Zhu Huntang did not send Zhongqing to find Lu Chang'an again. At dawn, Lu Chang'an returned home carrying the dead dog. The sycamore leaves on the ground seemed like autumn had traveled through several months and came to the beginning of summer, with a bleak smell. Lu Chang'an stood under the tree carrying the dead dog and turned to look at the van in front of him. After hesitating for a while, Lu Chang'an swept all the sycamore leaves together, picked up a pile of bricks and stones and gathered them around. He piled some particularly dry sycamore leaves inside and lit them on fire. He stabbed the dead dog with a long wooden stick and started. The hair was burned off in the fire. The fire was raging, and the dog's hair was burned and gave off an unpleasant smell. Fortunately, the Rottweiler's body hair was short, and it was clean after a while. Lu Chang'an took a knife and chopped off the dog's head, holding it in a big basin. After putting it in the carriage, I saw that the bronze coffin was still motionless after a long time, and then I closed the carriage door. The remaining thing was to disembowel the dead dog. After the dog's outer skin was burned, the internal organs were slightly cooked, making it easier to clean. Lu Chang'an kept the dog's liver for himself. There were 8 delicacies in the palace delicacies during the Shang and Zhou dynasties. The liver glutinous rice in Bajhan is made from dog liver, which is the most authentic way. Some people also use pork liver, foie gras, duck liver, etc. The common method of making liver dumplings is to wrap the liver with the oil between the intestines and grill it, which tastes great. Clean the other organs and keep them. Lu Chang'an does not plan to make dog meat hot pot or braised dog meat, which are common in Juncha. These organs are the most suitable raw materials for making dog meat sauce. Lu Chang'an kept some of the dog meat for himself, and put the rest of the dog meat on wooden shelves at the door of his house, waiting for the neighbors to get up and sell it. Brother Chang'an, did you kill a piglet? The little girl brought the soy milk and looked at Lu Chang'an curiously. This is a dog. Lu Chang'an took the soy milk and drank it. The little girl's name was Zhou Dongdong, and she and her mother Zhou Shuling rented Lu Chang'an's house upstairs. How can you kill a dog? Zhou Dongdong pouted, then tears came out little by little, and he began to sob. How could you kill a dog? Why can you kill piglets but not dogs? Zhou Dongdong wiped his eyes, bit his fingers, and was stunned for a moment. He couldn't find a reason, and then cried, how can you kill a dog? Lu Chang'an sighed. Both men and women must be reasonable. The little girl should forget it. Lu Chang'an would not reason with her. The preparation of liver glutinous rice is very simple. You can try it at home. It is really delicious. Dog liver is difficult to prepare. Daily ingredients such as pork liver and foie gras can also be used. Foie gras can be fried first and then wrapped in intestinal fat and grilled. There is no need to be rigid. The way to do it is to use the talent of the foodie empire. Please collect it, recommend it, and be on the list. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 34. Zhou Dongdong cried for a while, then stood there biting his fingers and watching Lu Chang'an selling dog meat, while repeating the words he hummed. After a while, someone saw Lu Chang'an's formation and came to take a look. Old Mrs. Lu wiped her nose and asked where Lu Chang'an's dog came from. Last night I was helping people look after the construction site, and I met someone walking his dog. The dog came over and tried to bite me. I hit it on the head with my fist and killed it. The owner of the dog was very nice and didn't cause any trouble for me. He left it alone. I didn't even ask for a dog, and even invited me to drink tea. Fight back, you think you are Wusong, Mrs. Lu said disdainfully. If you are not honest, this dog cannot have rabies, right? That's not possible. These dogs have basically been vaccinated. Dogs that died of rabies are very thin and have many skin and flesh wounds. Do you think this dog's skin is plump? Does it look like a sick dog? Mrs. Lu nodded and stretched out 3 fingers. After thinking about it, she stretched out 5 fingers. There are many people in Juncha who like to eat dog meat, but they are not willing to buy the dog meat from the vendors in the vegetable market. Firstly, it looks unhygienic, and secondly, they are worried about the source of the dogs. However, everyone likes dogs that are killed by themselves. I want something fresh. A dog weighing more than 100 pounds, 3 pounds for you and 5 pounds for me, was sold out in one morning. Lu Chang'an gave 3 kilograms of dog meat to Zhou Dongdong, who had been crying and watching him selling dog meat. Zhou Dongdong cried while looking at the dog meat in his hand. He cried even harder and ran home carrying the dog meat in his hands. When selling dog meat, the dog offal was also stewed, but there was no time to make dog meat sauce. Lu Chang'an was already late when he came to school. At this time, you are still late every day. You might as well study at home. Huang Shan blocked Lu Chang'an at the school gate again. I met a dog last night. I killed it and sold it for dog meat, and made about 1,000 yuan. Lu Chang'an explained the reason for being late. Huang Shan stretched out his finger. He really didn't know what to say. He knew very well that this was definitely not an excuse made by Lu Chang'an. Because of this, Huang Shanke felt more and more ridiculous. This was the first time he had heard this excuse since he became a teacher. Go in. Huang Shan waved his hand and shook his head helplessly. Seeing that Lu Chang'an's self-reliance was beyond the reach of ordinary students, he didn't bother to argue with him. Lu Chang'an came to the classroom. Miao Yingying sat in his seat and chatted with Bai Hui. Lu Chang'an returned to his original seat and said to An Nuan and Gao Dui, I killed a dog last night. Let's go to my house to eat dog meat tonight. No, I want to study. Gao Dui was still obsessed with studying and was not interested in anything else. And you? Me? Forget it, I'll eat it myself. An Nuan took a paper ball and threw it at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an nimbly avoided it and hit Miao Yingying, who was walking back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Yes, it's all Lu Chang'an's fault, he. Miao Yingying sat down, glanced at Gao Dui, who was concentrating on doing exercises, and then turned to glance at Lin Xinhua, who was lying on the desk and dozing off. Needless to say, Lin Xinhua must have stayed up all night in the internet cafe again last night. Today Bai Hui still ignored Lu Chang'an and put on a mask. The white mask had a cute duck painted on it. At noon, Bai Hui took off the mask, and her face didn't look good all day long, because she secretly noticed that Lu Chang'an often read the book Zi Baiyu, and he inserted a line on the page of duck love. After leaving the bookmark, Bai Hui flipped through it and felt that he was really cheap. Why didn't it take until the end of high school to realize that there was such a disgusting person in my class like Lu Chang'an? And she actually thought that he had liked her for 3 years, which made the girl's cheeks turn red with shame. After the penultimate class in the afternoon, An Nuan discovered that Huang Shan's car had left early. She carried her school bag and left from the back of the classroom without waiting for class. She was very popular in the class. As the monitor, she was very concerned about many things in the class. They always turn a blind eye and won't be too harsh on their classmates. They don't worry about being reported for sneaking out once. Anyway, the last class is just self-study. Of course, Lu Chang'an left leisurely. Miao Yingying couldn't help but push Gao Dui next to her. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan often skip classes. How can you play with them? Gao Dui thought for a while and glanced at Miao Yingying, because they study well. Miao Yingying rolled her eyes at Gao Dui. Such a person would definitely not be able to find a girlfriend when he goes to college. And Nuan actually doesn't skip classes often. She just goes to practice ball sometimes. Most of the time she's at school, she's not in the classroom, but in the gymnasium. It's not like Lu Chang'an was wronged. An Nuan was waiting for Lu Chang'an by the wall under the green cypress tree. He was not leaving school during lunch break or after school. He would inevitably be questioned by the guard, so climbing the wall was a suitable choice. Seeing Lu Chang'an taking his time slowly, An Nuan jumped and waved, telling him to hurry up. She had to go home before 8 o'clock in the evening, so if she wanted to go to Lu Chang'an's house to eat dog meat, it would be better to skip a class and have more time. I haven't climbed over the wall. An Nuan put his hands behind his back and looked at the high walls with some embarrassment. The walls in this area are relatively old, and they are still made of red bricks with broken glass stuck on top to prevent them from climbing over. But there were too many people climbing on it, so naturally there were sections of broken glass here and there on the wall. You're already very good at climbing trees. How can it be difficult to climb over a wall? Lu Chang'an didn't believe it. Sports students, especially big ball athletes, have good jumping ability. Isn't it easy to climb over such a wall? When did I climb trees so fast? An Nuan stamped her feet. She could be a lady if she loved sports, but ladies couldn't climb trees. When I was in the physical education class in my freshman year of high school, you were playing badminton. The badminton flew to the tree. You climbed up like a monkey and picked it off. and Nuan was a little happy that Lu Chang'an remembered things that she didn't even remember. What was unhappy was that he remembered her climbing a tree and described her as a monkey. And Nuan raised her leg to kick Lu Chang'an, but Lu Chang'an dodged it nimbly. And Nuan glared at him and said, "Push me." After everything was exposed, and Nuan lost her reserve. She jumped and grabbed the top of the wall. She turned around and motioned for Lu Chang'an to push her, because she had to be careful when climbing the wall. Someone could help her climb a little, so as not to rub herself against the wall. Shattered glass. Lu Chang'an stretched out his hand to hold in Nuan's butt and push it up. And Nuan felt a little strange. After climbing up the wall, he turned around and sat down, his slender calves shaking. "I won't let you come up." Lu Chang'an was watching her from below, the sun was behind her, the hair beside her ears was fluttering under the orange light, a slight smile appeared on her soft cheeks, and there was a mischievous and accompanying pride in her eyes. She hummed a soft song, and it was as if she could see the notes falling out, swaying with her swaying calves. The tendons behind an Nuan's heels are very long, making the whole calf tight and slender, very beautiful. Idiot An Nuan saw Lu Chang'an looking at him with a slight smile, pursed his lips, and said angrily, "Come up quickly." A girl's mind can change in an instant. If she didn't let her come up just now, if she doesn't come on now, she will become an idiot. Lu Chang'an climbed up and sat next to An Nuan. The two sat on the moss-covered and green wall for 5 minutes, and then they climbed over and walked to Lu Chang'an's home. Please collect, recommend, and introduce to more book friends. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 35. When An Nuan was a freshman in high school, she came to Lu Chang'an's house when she participated in the student union's household survey on poverty relief. And Nuan remembered that she came with Bai Hui. At that time, Lu Chang'an still liked Bai Hui, but he likes Bai Hui now too, maybe. Will always like white fennel. When they came back and passed by the vegetable market, and Nuan followed Lu Chang'an to buy fresh ginger, garlic, and chili. This ginger is a bit old, so it should be cheaper, and Nuan negotiated the price very skillfully, intending to save Lu Chang'an money. When I make dog meat sauce, I need old ginger. Lu Chang'an shook his head. And Nuan glared at Lu Chang'an. A girl doesn't want to lose face when she shows her characteristics of home life. The stall owner smiled and said, "These gingers, I'll give you a bunch of garlic. Do you want green onions?" "Yes, some red pepper too." And Nuan stopped talking and watched Lu Chang'an quickly pick and pack the plastic bags and go home. Walking into the community, probably because An Nuan and Lu Chang'an were both wearing school uniforms, there were more old men and women observing. When passing by the canteen, Aunt Xie giggled and said that the little girl is so pretty. "Why are they always staring at me?" And Nuan was a little shy and expected Lu Chang'an to tell the real reason why they were staring at her. "Easy." And Nuan stamped her feet and wanted to beat Lu Chang'an again. He was a bastard who didn't understand the charm. It was not for nothing that he didn't have a girlfriend. Bai Hui must like that kind of humor. From time to time, he could say something that makes people's hearts beat like a deer. Boy, so Bai Hui definitely doesn't like Lu Chang'an, who only thinks about how to choke you to death. Since Lu Chang'an went to sit with Bai Hui, and Nuan has been helping Bai Hui find reasons why she shouldn't like Lu Chang'an every day. She is very happy that she can find them every day. "Brother Chang'an, have you brought your girlfriend back?" Zhou Dongdong was squatting under the sycamore tree, holding a ceramic rice bowl. Being a smart and sensible kid, and Nuan blushed, shook her head vigorously, her ponytail swaying, and pushed Lu Chang'an. "Why did you push me? Don't you explain?" The kid has misunderstood. Her name is Zhou Dongdong. She is a very annoying child. "I don't want to talk to her," Lu Chang'an said. "I don't like you either. You bully dogs," Zhou Dongdong said. Lu Chang'an pointed to Zhou Dongdong's bowl. "What's in your bowl?" Zhou Dongdong looked at his bowl, hid it behind his back, rubbed his nose and said, "Dog meat." Because lying would make his nose longer, Zhou Dongdong was a little worried, so he didn't lie. "How many bowls have you eaten?" "3 bowls. Then you still say that I bully dogs. It's delicious, but you just killed the dog. Go cook." And Nuan pushed Lu Chang'an. It's true that the boss is not young enough to be able to argue with a child for so long. "Sister, you are so tall." Zhou Dongdong looked up at An Nuan. "You are as huge as an elephant." And Nuan somewhat understood why Lu Chang'an said Zhou Dongdong was a very annoying child, but fortunately, he was very cute, and An Nuan wasn't really so petty. "Sister, will you come with me to see the ants? Many ants here are dead. Brother Chang'an must have peed here last night and drowned them all." "Zhou Dongdong, I didn't do that, you just peed there yourself." And Nuan was about to push Lu Chang'an back, but he still came to the tree, squatted down and fiddled with the ant corpses with a piece of grass clippings. Lu Chang'an pinched one in his hand, looked at it carefully, and then looked back at the van. "I will pee here specifically from now on, and it will stink you to death," Lu Chang'an said to Zhou Dongdong. "You stink to death, you stink to you stink to death." Zhou Dongdong hugged his job and ran away. And Nuan shook her head and followed Lu Chang'an into the house. Lu Chang'an's room was very small, with a bathroom and toilet that could be turned around easily. The bed was in the center, and kitchen utensils and a small table were placed near the door. Lu Chang'an asked An Nuan to find a place to sit down by himself, and he began to work. "First stir-fry the dog oil, ginger and garlic, then add the minced dog intestines and stir-fry the oil, add some red pepper and perilla, add other chopped dog offal and autumn oil, add soup and stew for a while. Fragrant dog meat sauce." When Lu Chang'an was cooking, An Nuan did not disturb her. She just sat aside and watched him busy. Suddenly, she felt that the small room was filled with fragrance and a touch of warmth. Now a boy as old as Lu Chang'an has how many people know how to cook? As Lu Chang'an said, boys at this age secrete too much hormones and their main purpose in pursuing girls is clear to An Nuan. Just like a girl like Bai Hui, almost every boy sees her. She couldn't possibly not know what would come to mind first, right? Although there were many boys surrounding her, they were probably all after her breasts. It was uncomfortable to think about the feeling of being pursued. Lu Chang'an prepared the meal and invited An Nuan to come and have a feast. "Why is it so delicious?" An Nuan praised Lu Chang'an's cooking skills without hesitation, using the speed of eating. "It's much more delicious than hot pot. This is the way of eating in some places in the north. In fact, if there are turtles, they can be used to make soup and then cook dog meat. It is also very delicious. It was passed down from Fan Kuai. Lu Bang liked it very much, but I don't like it very much. I like Lu Bang." And Nuan Ke was not like Lu Chang'an, who always wanted to understand the relevant humanistic allusions to whatever he ate. He only sighed that it was so delicious when he was full, and warned, "I don't care, even if you find a girlfriend in the future, you will still have to eat it. Remember to call me when you cook delicious food. Otherwise, I will never be done with you, and you are not allowed to value sex over friends." This is more difficult. Lu Chang'an thought about it seriously and frowned in embarrassment. Girls are small-minded and it's impossible not to be jealous. If I find a girlfriend and you often come here to eat, she will definitely, I will use words like green tea girl, scheming girl, etc. to quarrel with you. Who is afraid of whom? And Nuan looked disdainfully, stretched out her legs, kicked off her shoes and stepped on Lu Chang'an's instep, declaring war on the Lu Chang'an's girlfriend who did not yet exist. "Unless she is prettier than me, her breasts are bigger than mine, her legs are longer than mine, she's smarter than me, and she's cuter than me. Is there such a girl?" Lu Chang'an said firmly that it was completely impossible. And Nuan burst out laughing, feeling slightly proud, and stretched out her hand to rub her belly. Feeling that she was full, She couldn't help but want to act coquettishly and ask Lu Chang'an to help rub her belly. She stopped her words in time, she was so unhappy. Being reserved, Lu Chang'an rarely said a nice word, and he was confused and didn't know why. But I have a way to solve this problem perfectly. Sayan Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an warily, and her intuition told her that Lu Chang'an was looking for a beating again. You see, most mothers don't care about their daughters eating at home. Really? Even though An Nuan was full and holding on, she still couldn't bear it and jumped up, ran behind Lu Chang'an, held his head and tried to push him to the ground. Can you be more reserved? Don't rub against me. Lu Chang'an couldn't understand An Nuan's mentality of wanting to touch him. When girls fight like this, they don't touch their waist, legs, and breasts. Normally, they don't let it go. Do you take the initiative to rub against others wherever they touch you? You provoke. An Nuan clamped his arm with her legs to prevent him from resisting. Her cell phone rang, saying that Cao had arrived, and her mother called to ask where she was. After making the call and dealing with it, An Nuan stopped arguing with him and hummed, "Send me home, and then you can walk back alone. The normal plot is not for you to send me back again, and I to send you back again, and finally reluctantly separate at the bridge, and see each other step by step, without seeing each other's figures, and then hurriedly send messages to each other." Lu Chang'an was very understanding of the style. Look. An Nuan gave him a roll of his eyes. If this is the case, the girl will definitely be happy and willing. But Lu Chang'an, this annoying guy, must just talk about it. He will never say it when he does it. When he says it, he will absolutely not. Of course Lu Chang'an was just talking. He had something else to do tonight, whether it was a mahjong appointment or going to fight off the beard. Please recommend and collect. In addition, Nuan's image is still being fleshed out, so for the time being there is not much ink to outline the other girls, they will all be fleshed out. And Nuan is definitely the heroine. The status of a girl named An is force majeure. Only the girl named An Nan can fight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 36. After walking out of the community and checking the time, An Nuan called for an online ride-hailing service. The two of them were waiting on the roadside. An Nuan looked carefully at the driver who took the order and was surprised. This guy drove a Bentley to do the online ride-hailing service. Lu Chang'an took a look and saw that the model was a Bentley Bentayga. An Nuan tried to cancel, but did not expect that the car was nearby. Lu Chang'an smiled and An Nuan gave up. She was with Lu Chang'an, what could others do? The vast majority of people who drive these multi-million-dollar luxury cars as online car-hailing services are certainly not aiming to experience life or make money. It can even be said that their goals are very clear. Many girls also understand the thoughts of such online car-hailing owners, and they either cancel directly, order, or get on the bus clearly. The car stopped quickly. The driver's name An Nuan could be seen on the app interface. It was Ma Benwei. He stuck his head out and glanced at An Nuan and Lu Chang'an. His eyes paused on Lu Chang'an and frowned. Two people ah. Then shall I cancel the order? An Nuan asked eagerly. No, there are few cars at this point, get in the car. Ma Benwei glanced at An Nuan and said. Lu Chang'an got on the car first, followed by An Nuan. The east gate of the orangery of Shonan University, right. Right. The car started to move, and An Nuan noticed that Ma Benwei was glancing back from time to time in the rear-view mirror, and quickly took Lu Chang'an's arm. Drive well, Lu Chang'an reminded. To tell you the truth, I do live broadcasts. My fans reminded me that this beautiful girl is also an internet celebrity. Ma Benwei turned his head and glanced at An Nuan. He looked at the other person, a man and a woman, and he had to follow the routine. It might be a bit difficult to create program effects, so Ma Benwei simply said it. Upon hearing this, En Nuan pulled up Lu Chang'an's clothes, completely covering his face, and ignored Ma Benwei. It's not okay for you to do this, infringing on other people's privacy and portrait rights, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Okay, I'll turn off the live broadcast. En Nuan then put down Lu Chang'an's school uniform. To be honest, a beautiful girl like you without makeup is much prettier than any internet celebrity I've ever seen. They all rely on beauty and makeup, Ma Benwei couldn't help but praise. Of course, our school has 500 flower guardians who take turns to protect him every day. I waited in line for a year before it was my turn, Lu Chang'an said happily, and then felt the flesh on his waist being pinched by En Nuan. Haha, that's an exaggeration, Ma Benwei said with a smile. Beauty, is that so? En Nuan still ignored Ma Benwei and refused to say a word until she got off the bus. Watching the car drive away, En Nuan stamped her feet. It's really unlucky, but how could I be recognized? I usually walk on the street and no one points at me and calls me a volleyball girl or something. The visual perception of direct contact and the photos and images seen through the screen are completely different. I think the key is the issue of school uniforms. Your mother sent you many photos in school uniforms on Weibo. When others compare them, shown in the school uniforms of the university-affiliated high school, and they look so good, I immediately thought of them. I'd better give it a 5-star review. Is it my fault that I'm good looking? En Nuan twisted her body a little proudly. Let's go back. It's because you refused to walk back with me, otherwise this wouldn't have happened. I hate this kind of anchor so much. It's nothing. Anyway, I'm with you and he didn't even talk to you. What he said is right. It's difficult to find a car at this point. Well, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. En Nuan stood still and didn't move. You want to send me back? Lu Chang'an asked with a smile. I'll wait for you to turn around and kick you. Lu Chang'an turned around, and En Nuan watched him come to the corner, then put his hands in his pockets and skipped home. Lu Chang'an did not walk back again, but found a bicycle and rode it back to his home. He still went around the mahjong parlor, watched others playing cards under the grapevines, and then came to the sycamore tree. Almost all the leaves of the sycamore tree have fallen off, and the branches are bare. Most of the discussion about the sycamore tree these days is related to Lu Chang'an's original explanation of the treasure buried underground to absorb essence. The one with the highest support rate is Old Man Jian's statement that the earth dragon sucked water and dropped the beads here, which gave him an authoritative momentum and initiative in chatting with old men and ladies these days. Lu Chang'an opened the carriage. He put a dog head inside in the morning. The summer heat did not make the carriage stuffy. He picked up the basin and still smelled the smell of blood. The dog head did not turn black, deteriorate or have other changes as expected. He put it in with the morning room. There is no difference. Can't you do dead things? Lu Chang'an murmured a few words. Recently, the leaves falling from the sycamore tree, a nest of dead ants, and some minor physical problems of the old people all occurred after the coffin was delivered here. It is absolutely impossible to say that this coffin has nothing to do with these conditions. Lu Chang'an closed the carriage door, went to find Mrs. Lu, and bought a pullet from her, a little over 3 pounds. If he hadn't earned more than 1,000 yuan from selling dog meat, Lu Chang'an wouldn't be so extravagant. After locking the little hen in the carriage, let's see what happens tomorrow morning. After Lu Chang'an finished all this, he took a shower and brushed his teeth, lying on the bed and looking at his phone. There were many unread messages in WeChat. I was riding home with my classmates today and met an online ride-hailing driver who was doing a live broadcast. Someone watched his live broadcast and took a screenshot and posted it on Weibo. Actually, that classmate and I are just ordinary friends. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a casual girl. I told you that I won't fall in love in high school. You don't seem to be on Weibo today. I remember that you usually give me likes. I went to your Weibo to check your updates and found that you didn't like my 2 new Weibo posts. I thought you angry. You're not really angry, are you? It's really a misunderstanding. Those people on the internet are talking nonsense. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and replied the message. The most important thing is that you explain it to your mother properly, but I think your mother is the kind of reasonable, gentle, considerate woman. Just explain it clearly. Haha, my mother is indeed like this. After I explained clearly, she was no longer angry. She has always been a very gentle person. The message was returned almost immediately. It turns out that they are of the same origin. Every time Lu Chang'an praised An Nuan accepted it without any politeness or humility. For example, when Lu Chang'an said she was cute, she would respond with "Yes, I'm really cute," instead of being like other girls who deny it in a reserved way, say something that demeans themselves or find some of their own shortcomings. I'm a little busy today, so I didn't go on Weibo. You won't keep holding your phone and waiting for my reply, right? No. I just turned on my phone. I turned it off. Ah, then I'm a little disappointed. Actually, I'm a little nervous. Although you are much older than me, why should you care about your age as a friend? Of course you should be more careful about your friends. I don't want you to misunderstand that I am a very casual girl. You are right. You are so well informed and kind-hearted, it must be because your mother has taught you well. Why do you keep talking about my mother tonight? Have it? Yes, I have. After chatting for a while, Lu Chang'an sent a message to An Nuan, only to find out that her mother had scolded her. She also recognized that the classmate with her was Lu Chang'an, who confessed to her in the last video. Her mother was so angry that she practiced. It took more than an hour for the belly dancing to calm down. The mother and daughter were both very cute. Lu Chang'an smiled and said good night. I wish everyone a happy May 4th Youth Day. 99 years ago today, Lu Chang'an was at BJ with the girl Ye Sijin and the young Qin Peng. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 37. In the faint morning light, Lu Chang'an woke up on time, turned on the bedside lamp, washed his face and brushed his teeth, then went out for a run in shorts and a shirt. As usual, they bypassed the Beilong Center. With Zhu Huntang's temperament, he would never give up easily. There were many ambitious women like Zhu Huntang in history. Most of them were stupid and keen to control powerful men as their own foundation. Relatively speaking, Zhu Huntang was particularly good-looking. Lu Chang'an had seen many stunning beauties who were famous in history. In fact, most of them were far inferior to Zhu Huntang. Due to nutrition, skincare, cosmetics, natural evolution, and other reasons, most modern women surpass ancient times in terms of skin color, texture, height, and plumpness. If it were a girl like Qin Yanan, she would have been a once-in-a-thousand-year beauty in the past. However, except for a few dynasties, the literati who mastered the standards of beauty probably would not appreciate her heavy bust and tall height more than those talented men with weak bodies. For elites in a patriarchal society, if they want to seize women as playthings, now is probably the best time. All kinds of women are stunningly beautiful and enchanting. Lu Chang'an does not have strong male chauvinism, so he rejects Zhu Huntang's recruitment. He does not care whether he works for a man or a woman, but Zhu Huntang's character is undoubtedly difficult to support her ambition. Recruiting Lu Chang'an is inherently difficult. A sneer that will tear the corners of the mouths out of the bones of many people who have passed away and left behind great names. I ran the set route at a very high speed and bought noodles at the vegetable market. Today I still ate noodles mixed with lard. The fat used by Lu Chang'an was fried with ginger and garlic. Sprinkle some chopped green onion to make it fragrant. The refrigerator is really a great invention. In the past, Lard sauce like the one made by Lu Chang'an could only be kept for 20 days in the summer, and the taste would change and it would be difficult to preserve the aroma. Now, generally speaking, the aroma can be maintained for 90 days. As for the leftover dog meat and sauce from yesterday, put them in a cooking box and take them to school to eat today. Zhou Dongdong came to deliver the soy milk, and she placed the sealed bag containing the soy milk by the door. "Brother Chang'an, didn't you kill any dogs today?" Zhou Dongdong asked, biting his soy milk bag as he watched Lu Chang'an walk out. "I'm going to kill a chicken today." As he spoke, Lu Chang'an came to the carriage, opened the door, took a look inside, and lifted Zhou Dongdong down, who quickly stepped on the ladder and tried to get into the carriage. There was silence in the carriage. As a child, the keen sixth sense brought out from the mother's womb has not completely deteriorated. After Zhou Dongdong was unscrewed, he did not insist on climbing up. He ran far away and stood on tiptoe on a brick. "Watch on tiptoe." Lu Chang'an found a little hen in the corner of the carriage. It was already stiff, and there was no breath of life in his hand. It was not even as good as yesterday's dog head. That dog head at least made people know that it was once part of a living thing. This little hen, the chicken, makes people feel that it has never been a living creature, without any remaining vitality and vitality. Lu Chang'an walked out of the carriage with the little hen and looked up at the sycamore tree. As expected, the remaining leaves on the treetops had not fallen any more. "He doesn't have a big appetite, he should be able to raise it." Lu Chang'an took the iron puller, dug a hole in the far corner, buried the little hen in, and covered it with a layer of soil loosely. "You should definitely not eat chicken anymore. It is a thing with no vitality and vitality. No matter how you stew it, it will not have any nutrition or taste." Zhou Dongdong stared at Lu Chang'an's work with wide eyes. When Lu Chang'an was almost finished burying him, he walked to the side of the stairs to hide and look around. If a little hen is buried in the ground, centipedes will burrow into its body. "Are you afraid?" Lu Chang'an threatened her. Zhou Dongdong originally wanted to dig out the pullets after Lu Chang'an left. When Lu Chang'an said this, he immediately shouted, "I'm not afraid of smelly centipedes," and hurried home. Children are the most annoying. Lu Chang'an packed up his iron bars and went to class, just in time to go out on the bicycle he rode back last night. When Lu Chang'an parked his car, Zhao Yuqiang also parked next to him on his bicycle and smiled at Lu Chang'an. "Things are unpredictable. Everyone just thought that you and Bai Hui must have fallen out. They didn't expect that by some strange combination of circumstances, you ended up at the same table as Bai Hui," Zhao Yuqiang said with some emotion. "Yes, when I sat next to Bai Hui, I realized that Bai Hui is really cute and has a good figure, just like a two-dimensional beautiful girl," Lu Chang'an said happily. Zhao Yuqiang was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Don't you like an Nuan?" Lu Chang'an nodded, patted Zhao Yuqiang on the shoulder, and walked slowly and leisurely to the school. Lu Chang'an. When Lu Chang'an turned around, he saw Bai Hui standing behind him. He and Zhao Yuqiang were standing behind the bus station awning. Bai Hui was coming from the other side. "What a coincidence!" Zhao Yuqiang shrugged and left without incident. "Did you hear that?" Lu Chang'an stopped and looked at Bai Hui, whose cheeks were slightly red, and said, "You knew I was here and you said that on purpose, right?" Bai Hui looked at Lu Chang'an without showing any expression. Zhao Yuqiang thought the same way. "He probably even cursed someone like a scheming man," Lu Chang'an said regretfully. "What a misunderstanding. I was completely honest." "Who would believe you?" Bai Hui raised her head and passed by Lu Chang'an. Her hair swept up, with the smell of fresh shampoo, and touched the tip of Lu Chang'an's nose. There is no need to praise the peaches and plums for their romance. Half of the spring breeze has been lost. Lu Chang'an didn't believe it himself, so he still walked slowly to the school. He didn't go directly to the classroom. Instead, he came to the gymnasium, and Saturday, as soon as he sat down, he saw In Nuan and the volleyball team members changing clothes and coming out of the locker room. A whole team almost gathered, the most slender and toned thighs in the entire high school. The first and second graders have to study in the morning and practice after school. In Nuan can arrange her time freely. Except for the Juncha City High School Volleyball League in June, In Nuan will not participate in other small competitions. Nuan, Lu Chang'an is getting more and more courageous. He has already stopped studying by himself. He's here to see you. He's a big pervert and he loves nothing more than watching you little girls. But, if he was a big pervert, you would have been tainted long ago. Hee, do you think In Nuan is still a little girl like you? I want to get beaten. The girls played for a while and then started to do warm-up exercises. At this time, the side door of the gymnasium was pushed open, and an extremely tall figure fell on the floor with the sun behind him. He stretched out his finger and hooked Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an followed him out. In Nuan saw him and ran over quickly. The only one in the school who was so tall and strong was Chen Changziu. When In Nuan ran over, she was stunned to find that Lu Chang'an was sitting on the steps behind the gymnasium leisurely, while Chen Changziu was lying on the ground rolling with a bruised nose and face. "Ah, are you okay?" In Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an didn't look like anything was wrong. Hearing In Nuan's voice, Chen Changziu stopped rolling. After all, he was a little embarrassed. He gritted his teeth and stood up, looking at Lu Chang'an with a bit of fear. "It's okay, student Chen accidentally fell." "You." Chen Changziu just wanted to defend himself, but if he said this, he would be severely beaten by Lu Chang'an, which would seem to be a loss of face. "They just said that you are getting bolder and bolder. You should be careful and don't let anything happen before the college entrance examination," In Nuan said worriedly. Fortunately, Chen Changziu was beaten. If Lu Chang'an was beaten before the college entrance examination, what should I do if it affects the college entrance examination? There's no way. I'm just getting used to it. The beautiful volleyball girls in high school were already leading the way. How can I get it in college? You have to know that the boys in college have nothing to do. Many of them are focused on staring at the new beautiful girls in school. I have to deal with it one by one. Chen Changziu is just the beginning. Lu Chang'an looked at his fist with satisfaction. "Fortunately, my fist is strong enough." "Are your fists strong enough? You are very proud of fighting, right?" And Nuan's cheeks were red and angry, because Lu Chang'an made her want to teach him too many things, such as saying that she was a coquettish person, and that he planned to fight in college. So In Nuan first found a problem to target. In Nuan punched Lu Chang'an's fist, not allowing him to fight and still feeling proud. Lu Chang'an staggered, his expression changed, and he fell down the steps with a backflip. He covered his chest and said, "The girl's fist is harder." In Nuan was funny and angry. She ran over, picked up her fist and beat him on the shoulder, stamping her feet coquettishly. "Hit here," Lu Chang'an pointed at his chest and said, "Girls raise their little fists and beat them randomly. They are all for hitting other people's chests." Disgusting, and Nuan satisfied him and beat him on the chest. "You, bastards," Chen Changziu was furious, holding his head and running away shouting. He didn't expect that not only would he be beaten by Lu Chang'an, but he would also have to watch such a shameless scene. Goosebumps arose. Sure enough, and Nuan liked it. The rumors of tampering with Lu Chang'an are also true. "Did you show mercy when you beat him just now?" And Nuan snorted hard and said angrily. "No." "That's good." And Nuan's eyes moved and she looked down at her slender legs. Unfortunately, Lu Chang'an still liked Bai Hui's big breasts. After all, long legs were not as important as big breasts. Her mind quickly turned back. What you just meant is that our university will be the same as it is now." "Certainly." The sun fell down from the side of his face, his eyes were warm, and An Nuan's familiar feeling was still exuding all over his body. The forest-like smell seemed to wrap around her. An Nuan stood on tiptoes, and her heart suddenly felt like a racing deer. Suddenly stopped as if being shot by a hunter. Almost, I was really crazy. How could a girl have such a strong impulse to do such a thing in an instant? Did you just want to kiss me? Bah, I didn't. You're dreaming. If I have such a dream, you won't beat me. How could I beat you if you didn't tell me? If I don't tell you, what's the point? Didn't I tell you that you are cuter when you are angry? I'm cute all the time. You provoke me again. The sun is gentle and the Dragon Boat Festival is approaching. I really miss Nzishui. Please collect and recommend. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuiken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 38. The Dragon Boat Festival is a very important festival. In addition to the most widely spread worship of Chu Yuan, there are actually other customs on the Dragon Boat Festival that sacrifice more people, ghosts, and gods, including the Tao god Wu Zixu, the filial daughter Caoe, as well as the silkworm god, the farm god, and the white god. The lady, the god of medicine, the god of plague, Zhangtianqi, Zhongkui, and so on. Lu Chang'an has carefully researched and found that there is no custom in any place where he is worshipped during the Dragon Boat Festival. As Zhu Huntang said, Pengxiu has received countless incense and even ascended to the throne of God after living for 800 years. What about him? Living so long seems like living in vain. Of course, Lu Chang'an didn't really care about this problem. He was just preparing to celebrate the Dragon Boat Festival. The sunflowers and pomegranates outside the window illuminate the eyes, and the cattail wine fills the silver bottle. Since I don't drink enough to be drunk, I am sober only because I admire Qingming Qiao. One day Shen Xiang mourned Chuke, and for thousands of years he read Cao Sutras. In a foreign country, we talk about festivals and follow the customs, and Ihu and Zhu hang in the household. Lu Chang'an's mood has nothing to do with this poem, but since we celebrate traditional festivals, we must recite some poems to appear more elegant. For example, on the summer solstice after the Dragon Boat Festival, we should also sing the summer solstice 99 songs. Lu Chang'an made the realgar wine using realgar, licorice, safflower, and garlic, without adding other medicinal ingredients. Even if he strictly followed the ancient method of making realgar wine, not everyone can drink it. Those with weak constitutions or unwell people can only use realgar wine. Just one example of material can poison someone. Many medicinal materials are actually toxic. The principle of medicinal use is to use toxins that can be tolerated to eliminate other toxins or diseases. Just because a certain medicinal material is toxic and the prescription derived from it is considered unscientific is a judgment made by superstitious science. Many times, both traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine are tossing patients between early death or late death, and whether there is enough damage or insufficient compensation. The little hen had been dug out by Lu Chang'an. After scalding it with slightly hot water, all the centipedes came out. They put it in a plastic bottle and threw it into the carriage. Centipedes are actually very delicious, especially the big centipedes. You can make them very delicious by following Hong Kigong's recipe in The Legend of the Condor Heroes. They feel like fresh shrimps when you first enter your mouth, but after you chew them slowly, they will become delicious. I found it to be more crispy, tender, and sweet, without any hint of firewood. A long time ago, giant centipedes were as tall as Zhou Dongdong, and you could eat one for several days. It was so delicious. At that time, mosquitoes were as big as helicopters, mice were as big as Zhou Dongdong, and butterflies flapped wings. The water in a large pool will be blown up to the sky by the wind. Lu Chang'an took the realgar wine out to dry in the sun for 5 days according to the rules, while biting the soy milk bag, and Zhou Dongdong, who was also biting the soy milk bag and watching him work. Chat. How come I haven't seen it before? Zhou Dongdong didn't believe it at all. A long time ago. When was it a long time ago? Zhou Dongdong said angrily. The last time I saw my mother go out to play, I was not in the photo. I was very angry. She didn't take me with her when she went out. She also said it's a photo from a long time ago. Why was it that I wasn't there a long time ago? Because you are a coward and have been hiding in your mother's belly. Then why don't I remember what happened in my mother's belly? Because you are not good at studying, even a div can forget it. How do you remember what happened when you were in your mother's belly? That's why it's like this. Zhou Dongdong nodded in sudden realization, and hurriedly ran home to explain to his mother, because her mother didn't even know it was the reason, but now Zhou Dongdong knew. Lu Chang'an went to pick a lot of calamus and mugwort leaves, and then rushed to the school. The Dragon Boat Festival holiday will not start until tomorrow, and today there are leaders from the provincial department coming to inspect. After all, it is a directly managed department, and the attached high school must pay attention to it. In addition to conducting routine teacher meetings and student union meetings to prepare for inspections, each class teacher must also do a good job of keeping an eye on some students. For example, Lu Chang'an is the focus of the target. Huang Shan specially asked him, either come early. If you can't make it and feel like you'll be late, just come back in the afternoon, lest he stagger around when you're late and happen to encounter the leader's presence, which will affect the image of the high school attached to him. The most important thing is that Huang Shan is afraid that the leader will see Lu Chang'an being late. By the way, he will ask why Lu Chang'an is late. Huang Shan does not want him to tell Lu Chang'an's weird reasons for being late. Lu Chang'an was not late today. If he was late today, of course the reason was because he had to prepare for the Dragon Boat Festival, pick some mugwort leaves, calamus, and centipedes, and chatted with the children, which wasted time. In fact, leadership inspections have little impact on ordinary students. Today is different from the past. If a big-name leader has a negative impact on school teaching, such as asking students to suspend classes and organize activities to welcome them, I am afraid they will be a little sensitive to public opinion. Leaders, when they see this kind of battle, they will turn around and leave, then scold the school bloody. There are always exceptions, but today's inspection is not an exception. Except for the attention of school leaders and teachers, other daily teaching activities in the attached middle school are as usual. Lu Chang'an, what do you smell like? After Lu Chang'an sat down, Bai Hui sniffed and couldn't help but frown. Face was given to each other, and Lu Chang'an said a lot of nice things that day, whether intentionally or unintentionally, so Bai Hui was willing to take the initiative to say a word or two to him, although she was more and more sure that Lu Chang'an and An Nuan were sweet. Aroma. Bai Hui had a straight face because she remembered the day Lu Chang'an said he smelled her body. She asked him what the smell was, and Lu Chang'an also replied scent. Having a straight face doesn't mean he's unhappy. Bai Hui sniffed and asked, what exactly does it smell like? You keep breathing in my scent, Qianning and Lu Yuan will be unhappy, Lu Chang'an said with concern. Lu Chang'an was still as annoying as ever, but strangely Bai Hui found that he didn't get angry immediately, probably because he had gotten used to it. Did you ever use backbite when you were a kid? Bai Hui hesitated and nodded. Why did he suddenly ask this? Generally, girls who develop earlier have low self-esteem, so they tend to have a hunchback when standing or sitting, trying to make their breasts less prominent. I see that you don't have the habit of bending over, and I think you may have used a back. Good. Using that will make it more prominent. That's why I have no use for it. Bai Hui lowered his voice, angry and slightly proud of his revenge. You'd better give it to your Anyuan, she has always been very concerned about this. Lu Chang'an didn't answer Bai Hui, and showed a slightly thoughtful expression. Bai Hui couldn't help but be secretly surprised. Could it be that Lu Chang'an and An Nuan had really developed to the stage of paying attention to breasts? Bai Hui also felt that it would be very difficult for Lu Chang'an to treat him like Lu Yuan and Qian Ning did, but Bai Hui was still a little unwilling and thought for a while, why? In what way am I inferior to An Nuan? As a girl, of course she enjoys the admiration and enthusiastic gazes of boys. This is something that Bai Hui is accustomed to. The two boys who are commanded by Lu Yuan and Qian Ning have always been Bai Hui's favorite. Selected from the boys who are affectionate and proactive, Qian Ning has better grades and Lu Yuan's family is richer. Although they are not the most outstanding, they are the most obedient. But recently, Bai Hui feels more and more that there is still something missing around her, or is there missing an interesting boy like Lu Chang'an? Yes, Lu Chang'an is annoying, but Lu Chang'an is also interesting, unlike Lu Yuan and Qian Ning who only obey her orders. Lu Chang'an is indeed interesting, but he seems to be a little too horny. Bai Hui has been watching Lu Chang'an draw all morning. He actually spent the whole morning drawing a vagina and marked some random acupuncture points on the vagina. Names and dots, along with various massage gestures and instructions. Is he creating his own breast enlargement massage technique? Oh my God, I am about to graduate from high school, how come I met a classmate like Lu Chang'an? Bai Hui secretly watched him painting with a hot face, helpless at the same time. Ask for favorites and recommendations. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 39. After class at noon, Lu Chang'an was about to go to An Nuan to exchange some research results on health massage and traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture theory with her. Huang Shan called out Lu Chang'an, An Nuan, Gao Duai, and Bai Hui. The leader who came to inspect today is called Ma Xingguo. He asked to have a meal in the cafeteria with the teachers and students of the attached middle school. The school organized the participating teachers and students, among whom Huang Shan's class was the most numerous. Needless to say, Gao Duai, there were a dazzling array of competition medals and the rankings in various examinations are all based on the affiliated high school, and An Nuan is also a famous volleyball girl. In addition to being extremely well known in the affiliated middle school and its several branches, she is also very popular in the entire Juncha middle school and education system. However, Bai Hui is good at communication and is generous and never frightened. If the leader needs to know something, Bai Hui can also explain it. Lu Chang'an, he was asked to participate by name. This makes it difficult for Huang Shan to understand. Lu Chang'an, a subsidy student who often uses the excuse of being late because he earned 200 yuan moving bricks and 1000 yuan selling dogs, is there anyone in the education system who can take care of him? Ma Xingguo first delivered a heartfelt speech. He fondly reviewed his difficult experience in high school 40 years ago, lamented that students now live in the best of times, encouraged students to be grateful to the times and teachers, and hoped that students can assume the important task of national rejuvenation. Ma Xingguo's sincere speech also moved the students deeply. Bai Hui, on behalf of all the students, thanked the leaders for their care and expressed his mentality that he would definitely cheer up, prepare for the college entrance examination that is just around the corner, and return to society with his studies. Ma Xingguo praised Bai Hui and made a joke, saying that Bai Hui could develop into a host in the future, which made Bai Hui very happy, but then Ma Xingguo talked about An Nuan again. He said that he was a fan of An Nuan. Even though she knew it was a joke, An Nuan still looked nervous appropriately, but she was very depressed in her heart. Why were so many middle-aged and elderly men paying attention to her? Even Lu Chang'an pretended to be middle-aged. Bai Hui felt that An Nuan was still more popular than herself, because when An Nuan was mentioned, more people seemed to support her. However, Bai Hui also noticed that Ma Xingguo's eyes glanced between herself and An Nuan from time to time. I don't know if I'm looking at Lu Chang'an or Gao Duai. Most of them are Gao Duai. Students like this who the school places great hope on to win the top spot in the college entrance examination have always been the school's real brand. Gao Dui, do you still remember me? When you returned from the competition last year, your principal and I went to pick you up at the airport. Sure enough, Ma Xingguo talked to Gao Dui. Gao Dui was about to say that he didn't remember, but was pushed by Lu Chang'an. Gao Dui nodded quickly, but he actually reacted. Ma Xingguo did not miss Lu Chang'an, but he didn't seem to know Lu Chang'an very well. Instead, he asked Huang Shan about Lu Chang'an's situation in school. Of course, Huang Shan only picked out the good ones and praised Lu Chang'an very well, but he was wondering in his heart, you called Lu Chang'an by name, so what are you doing with this pretense now? Overall, the meal was very relaxed and enjoyable. Apart from Ma Xingguo, the one who attracted the most attention was a young woman who was a few seats away from Ma Xingguo. She didn't say a word from beginning to end, except for raising her eyes from time to time. After a few glances, there was no other movement, except that most people's eyes would be attracted to her from time to time because she was so beautiful. After dinner, the students could disperse. Huang Shan originally wanted to ask Lu Chang'an, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. Lu Chang'an was going to graduate after all. Even if he had some skills, he wouldn't be able to benefit much anymore. He still had the same attitude as before. That's good. Teachers always have to be more reserved. When they see that the other person may have some connections in the family, they immediately become enthusiastic than before. Huang Shan has never been so shameless. En Nuan, Gao Dui, Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui went back together. Today's food was quite delicious. I ate 3 bowls, Gao Dui said, patting his belly. I ate 4 bowls. Lu Chang'an and Gao Dui walked behind, arm in arm. Actually, I can still eat it, Gao Dui said unconvinced. I also drank 2 bowls of soup. Bai Hui and En Nuan were talking in front. Although the two of them usually didn't deal with each other, as beautiful girls, on an occasion like today, they felt a little bit on the same side. Yes, those men are also funny. They all look like they want to take a look but don't dare to look at them. What's so good about them, except for a certain guy, and Nuan is 99% satisfied with him today. If he is willing, if he looked at her a few more times with the look that En Nuan usually saw when he was talking, En Nuan would be able to give him 100 points. The 2 idiots behind us didn't seem to pay attention to this at all and kept eating. Bai Hui looked back at Lu Chang'an and Gao Dui. En Nuan burst out laughing, with a somewhat proud expression on his face, and he couldn't help but glance at Bai Hui. Bai Hui suddenly became furious. A girl's look or a small movement can express a lot of meanings. Similarly, a girl can also understand a lot of meanings from a look in the other person's eyes or a small movement. Bai Hui felt that En Nuan was mocking her. Lu Chang'an behaved like this. What if Qian Ning and Lu Yuan were replaced? Qian Ning and Lu Yuan sometimes don't dare to talk to En Nuan. If they were here today, they would definitely want to look at it but dare not look at it. At this point, En Nuan beats Bai Hui because the boy likes En Nuan. She is much more promising than the girl who likes her, Bai Fen. There is another meaning that makes Bai Hui unbearable. En Nuan's eyes are clearly saying, Lu Chang'an doesn't even bother to look at a beautiful woman with bigger breasts than you. Do you think he will look at you more? Bai Hui was about to change his position and make counterattacks based on his own capital, but he heard someone behind him shout, Lu Chang'an. The 4 of them stopped. En Nuan and Bai Hui were surprised to find that the beautiful woman they were secretly discussing just now followed them and called out to Lu Chang'an. When we were eating just now, she didn't seem to notice anyone. She didn't expect that she secretly remembered Lu Chang'an's name. Bai Hui smiled slightly. The kind of girl who appears to be calm and cool on the surface, but actually has hidden secrets, is of course the most annoying, commonly known as menzeo. En Nuan stopped expressionlessly, but she heard Lu Chang'an say slowly, cousin, is something wrong? Qin Yanan glanced at An Nuan and Bai Hui and nodded. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 40. The sunshine at noon was as warm as freshly baked egg tarts. It fell on the skin, and it seemed that the aroma could be smelled. Qin Yanan was a little uncomfortable with the early summer in the county. He was just walking on campus, with those green eyes in a hurry. The pace and the noisy voices all carried the childishness and vitality unique to this age, which slowly made Qin Yanan feel emotional and envious in his heart. 25 years old, neither too old nor too young. If Qin Yanan usually doesn't think much about the issue of age, Zhu Huntang is a little fairy, but some people often say that she is the little princess of the Qin family. The princess is naturally there is no need to worry about getting married. But it happened that her great-grandfather found her an 18-year-old fiancé. Before the Dragon Boat Festival, a message came from the old house that Qin Yanan did not have to go back to greet the old man during the Dragon Boat Festival, but stayed in Junxia to accompany Lu Chang'an. Even his father couldn't say anything about this matter, and Qin Yanan couldn't do anything about it. Zhu Huntang even ran back to Taiwan to be a good baby, and was killed by Cheng Huan. Fortunately, Zhongqing is still staying in Junxia. Qin Yanan can ask Zhongqing to go to the spa or hang out in Beilong Center if she has nothing to do. She has someone to accompany her, so she won't be too idle. Qin Yanan turned around and saw Lu Chang'an looking at her, and couldn't help but feel slightly angry. Am I not so ugly that you can't accept it? What are you looking at me for? Women are charming in many ways, but after all, color is the main factor. Isn't it true that poetry is always thought of as gorgeous? Plain is white. The nature of a woman is only white, which is the most difficult. She often has eyebrows, eyes, words that appear in the painting, but the flaws are unique. Skin. Lu Chang'an quoted a passage from Li Yu's Xian Qing Oug. How could I say that you are so ugly that I can't accept it? I think you are very good looking, and the most rare thing is that you have fair skin, which makes you even more beautiful. Qin Yanan was slightly surprised, but after all, he praised her. His anger subsided, but something unexpected happened in his heart. She came to Lu Chang'an today. Of course, she didn't come to Lu Chang'an to pay attention to her fiancé's studies. It was just a schedule arranged by her father's secretary. I also want to take the opportunity to discuss with Lu Chang'an. Since he thinks she is ugly, why not cooperate and work together to mess up this matter? Now that he suddenly said she was beautiful, could Qin Yanan feel that her calculations were wrong? You clearly said what my great-grandfather meant, and you understand that you don't want to come. Qin Yanan wanted to stamp her feet anxiously, but she also didn't want to show off her little girlish attitude in front of a boy who was 7 years younger than herself. I don't want to, but you look so much like your great-grandmother, how can you be ugly? Don't be so inferior and understand yourself correctly. It's a good thing for a girl to be good-looking, but being too modest is hypocritical. Hers the great-granddaughter is now so old, but the smile on Lu Chang'an's face is still as bright as the sun. Qin Yanan didn't care about him and said she was being pretentious. She looked at Lu Chang'an in disbelief. You know what my great-grandfather meant. It's not because I'm ugly that you don't want to. It's really just because I look like me great-grandmother. Lu Chang'an nodded. The past was like broken smoke that was about to dissipate. The memories and emotions that he had buried did not want to come out again. If his mind was filled with the feelings of countless years, I am afraid that he would have become like Zhu Huntang. He couldn't stop thinking that if he and Qin Yanan were together, then he might not be able to tell the difference between Yesijin and Qin Yanan. All kinds of emotions were mixed together, making it difficult for him to maintain the calm state of mind that he should have in his current life. Qin Yanan couldn't understand. He didn't mean that he had lived with his great-grandmother and had a very close relationship with his great-grandmother. If he was with Qin Yanan, he would have misunderstandings and become uncomfortable. But these are not important. This is his business. Anyway, as long as he is not willing, it will be fine. Qin Yinan asked tentatively, since you are not willing and neither am I, let's mix this up. Well, I will write a letter and send it to Qin Peng for explanation. Lu Chang'an nodded seriously, this will never happen, you can rest assured. The smile between Qin Yinan's brows and eyes overflowed. She wanted to express her smile a little reservedly, but she was inexplicably shy. She looked at her little cousin who was different from her initial impression. This matter is all caused by adults. I think you should have someone you like, right? Qin Yinan herself had no way to influence her great-grandfather, but she felt that Lu Chang'an could definitely do it. After all, her great-grandfather was extremely excited when he received the news about Lu Chang'an, and gave Qin Yinan a psychological hint. What Lu Chang'an wrote was very heavy and influential. Since he is willing to revise a book so carefully, he can naturally end the original influence. Lu Chang'an nodded and said, although fate is not coincidental, the relationship is quite good. Although things have not happened before, the truth is easy to understand. The beauty of taking it for granted is more affectionate than those who are drunk and gentle in the countryside. He has never experienced the relationship between men and women. People who think about things are intoxicated just by imagining them. Although Lu Chang'an does not belong to this category, he has not been close to a woman for a long time. Naturally, there are people he likes, and there are also desires between men and women. One of those two girls just now, Qin Yinan, has the natural pride of a wealthy family, and it is not unreasonable to even say arrogant, but after all she has cultivated the basic qualities within the system. She did not speak during the dinner, but she was not really wandering around. I also paid attention to other people. Those two girls were very outstanding, especially one of them, who had a very good figure and had the size of a small rabbit that Qin Yinan hoped would be like Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang's might be bigger. Just worry about your own affairs. You're not young at first glance. Find a suitable person to marry, Lu Chang'an said with a sigh. Qin Yinan almost choked at his words. Qin Yinan just got to know him a little more and realized that this cousin was very different from his first impression. Although he lived in poverty, he was self-reliant. Huang Shan also introduced that his grades were very good. For the ancient poems and articles were also picked up at random. They were not prepared to meet her. I just praised someone and wanted to say that he has the talent to chase girls. Who knew that he would immediately say you are not young at first glance? Is this what a boy with normal emotional intelligence would say to a girl? Probably because she was by no means the object of his pursuit. She was 7 years older than him. Qin Yinan took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to hit him on the head. What a little brat! But although I can't marry you, I will take good care of you. In the future, you will encounter any insurmountable ups and downs in life, such as a serious illness, being chased by a mysterious figure, being bullied by a powerful husband's family, and wanting to. You can come to me for longevity extension, skin tightening, beautification, skincare, and body maintenance, Lu Chang'an said seriously. Qin Yinan was so angry and funny that she couldn't help but raise her hand and hit Lu Chang'an. She was Qin Peng's granddaughter. She had never been bullied by anyone since she was a child. It was even more impossible to talk nonsense about him. Qin Yinan only thought that he was just kidding, but I am in a good mood. As long as Lu Chang'an can push forward this marriage, everything will be fine. Nowadays, the reality of male dominance is strong. Even girls have to accept this. If a man marries a wife who is 7 years younger than him, there will be no problem. But if he marries a wife who is 7 years older than him, there will be too many problems. Strange looks and annoying saliva. I probably can't come to you when something like this happens. But I still have to come to you on Dragon Boat Festival. After all, you don't have to listen to anything else. Great-grandfather said that we cousins should be close to each other, but it is necessary. Qin Yinan's face said the smile was natural and soft. Okay, let's go back and have a good time in class. He really sounded like he was a little cousin, Lu Chang'an didn't mind and turned around and walked back to the classroom. In fact, he also felt a little conflicted in his heart.